Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge is an absolute treat for fans of the franchise, retro game lovers, and frankly, gamers of all kinds. This beat-em-up, which was developed by Tribute Games and published by Dotemu, is heavily inspired by the 1987 animated series. The love for the Turtles is sprinkled throughout the entire experience and will leave fans truly satisfied. The gameplay is incredibly fun and magnificently accessible. The combat is simple but challenging, and there's a depth that is discovered with time. There are challenges to keep you coming back for more, and there are collectibles to be discovered in every stage. Unfortunately, the story is hardly there. It's more of a series of premises that connect the stages, but more on that later. The pixel art and animations are best of class, and despite noticing some frame rate dips on Nintendo Switch, it runs at a consistent 60 frames per second. Lastly, the audio elevates the entire experience. The soundtrack is great, and the way the sound design enriches the combat is so satisfying. Grab a slice of pizza and yell cowabunga with me as we dive into my review of Shredder's Revenge. Before I even had the chance to bash in the head of a foot soldier, I faced one of the most difficult challenges in the game. Which turtle should I choose? Or do I even want to play as a turtle? I started out with Michelangelo and ended up completing my initial playthrough with the party dude. However, you immediately have access to Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, Michelangelo, Master Splinter, and April O'Neil. Each has their own statistics that should be considered as they may affect your playstyle. Additionally, there's one unlockable character that's made available after completing the story. As you raise shell through the game's 16 stages, you'll earn points that level up your character. Each level up grants either a boost to your overall health points, an additional super meter, or a new super move technique. The max level is 10, and I found leveling to be paced immaculately. Around the final stage, I was just hitting max level while playing casually. That's exactly how it should be in my opinion. Let's talk about combat for a moment. Sure, it looks like a simple quick attack, heavy attack, super attack, jump, and dodge move scheme, but once you scratch the surface, there's a depth that I enjoyed quite a bit. There are a variety of combos and techniques to master, and doing so feels rewarding to utilize. I'm sure you could just bash your way through the game and still have fun, but chaining these techniques together is where things get interesting. There's an elegance that appears amidst the weighty, crunchy feeling combat when you employ some of the more advanced techniques. Additionally, there are myriad enemy types to keep things interesting. Finding the best way to address certain enemy types creates these little combat-driven puzzles in the stages. Like I said before, I'm sure you could just spam your quick attack, but finding the best combo to defeat your enemy most efficiently is incredibly fun and challenging. The world map is simple, clean, and easy to read. Sometimes the next stage isn't immediately visible and you have to scroll around a bit to find it, but the map is pretty small, so it's nothing to really complain about. The 16 stages will take you to a plethora of locales. Each I found to be unique. I never felt like I was playing the same stage more than once, and each is memorable in its own right. I do have to admit, I'm not the biggest fan of the stages that ask you to ride skateboards. They're a nice change of pace, but I found combat during these sections to be a bit frustrating. Each stage ends with a boss fight, and each boss has unique attack patterns. Trying to figure out the best way to defeat a boss was a lot of fun, and some were really challenging. Some of them triggered nostalgia, and others I have to admit I've never seen before, but this made fighting through the level to discover the boss at the end exciting. Plus, the silhouettes at the beginning of the stage make for a nice little guessing game. While making your way through stages, there are collectibles hidden all over. Finding them all will reward you with points to increase your level, but that's about it. I collected them all on my first playthrough without much trouble. However, each stage has a set of challenges that are more intriguing. Most challenges I earned accidentally, but some are hard as nails. I found that they made me more carefully consider my character selection for each stage. The challenges asked me to learn attack patterns to avoid taking damage, and also experiment with new techniques. Completing a stage without taking damage or avoiding traps are some of the most difficult challenge types, but challenges like throwing enemies into destructible objects and completing the stage without using any super moves are a bit easier, albeit still fun to complete. Sitting down for some cooperative play can be done in two ways, couch co-op and online. I checked out couch co-op with my girlfriend and we had a blast. She doesn't play many games and found it easy to pick up and play. Additionally, cooperative techniques like sandwich slams, tubular spins, and home run swings are available while playing with someone. When I tried playing online, the game froze on me one time while trying to join a party, but after that I enjoyed playing Shredder's Revenge anonymously with strangers. However, I did notice some connectivity issues, but that could have just been the other players using bad Wi-Fi connections. I played on Switch, but my OLED dock has an Ethernet port that I used. I have pretty decent internet, so I don't think these problems were any fault of my own. There are also 2 game modes in Shredder's Revenge. Story mode allows you to play through the game without fear of dying and receiving a game over. Arcade mode asks you to play through all the stages in one go with a limited number of lives. However, characters don't need to be leveled up and there are no collectibles. Arcade mode is definitely for players with a better understanding of the game and those that know how to best utilize advanced techniques. Shredder's Revenge is the total package on the gameplay side. There's plenty of fun to be had and replayability is through the roof. However, the story left something to be desired, so let's go ahead and rip off the band-aid. Shredder's Revenge technically has a serviceable plot, but I feel like it's too shallow, even for an arcade game. To be fair, the story works for all audiences, and I understand why keeping it simple is the right call. Don't get me wrong, I think Tribute made the right decision here. However, I still found the story to be the weakest aspect of Shredder's Revenge. I feel like saying things like, it's just a beat 'em up, or it's an arcade game, is a bit of a cop-out. Here's a brief synopsis. Shredder has tasked Bebop and Rocksteady with gathering resources for his and Krang's dastardly plan. But that's where Master Splinter and his gang of mutated Ninja Turtles come into the picture to save the day. They fight their way through New York City, putting a stop to every villain Shredder throws their way, all in an effort to save the Big Apple and the world at large. This is totally serviceable, and I don't really have anything negative to say about the plot, unless you consider saying how the story is told is average to be an insult. I wouldn't call it an insult, but average is what I would call the storytelling in Shredder's Revenge. Maybe playing Sifu earlier this year spoiled me a bit, at least in terms of beat-em-ups with simple stories that are elevated by creative environmental storytelling and a depth that enriches replayability. Sifu's story is simple, but the way the story is communicated makes it above average. I'm not asking Shredder's Revenge to introduce nuance into a Ninja Turtle arcade game, but something more than one animated image with a single line of dialogue to connect the stages would have elevated the experience. My suggestion would be to still keep it simple, but add a couple more animated images with a few more lines of dialogue, just to let the story breathe and to express the personalities of the turtles a bit more. I want to be clear, Tribute didn't miss the mark by any means, they just threw a grenade at it. But I digress, it's completely fine, but that's all that it is, fine. Shredder's Revenge not only looks great with its top-tier pixel art aesthetic, but it also conjures nostalgia for retro gamers and fans of the Ninja Turtles. Every character is immediately recognizable and the stages are beautifully crafted. The Dimension X stages in particular are a visual feast for fans of pixel art. Shredder's Revenge explodes with color and runs at a consistent 60 frames per second. I mentioned before that I played the game on Switch, and I did notice some frame rate dips. However, these dips are exclusive to the Nintendo hybrid console. I would like to add that in handheld mode, particularly on the Switch OLED, Shredder's Revenge looks amazing. Outside of these minor dips, Shredder's Revenge is perfect for the handheld. I did notice some animations freeze from time to time, and occasionally an enemy would wander off screen, and I essentially had to wait for them to wander back before I could proceed. These are small hiccups that of course break immersion, but they're not game breaking. The pixel art on display in Shredder's Revenge is staggering. While it's not photorealism, it captures the retro aesthetic perfectly, and by that measure, Tribute succeeded in accomplishing what they set out to do. But what would a beat 'em up be without a great soundtrack and impactful sound design to back it up? Luckily, Shredder's Revenge ticks both of these boxes spectacularly. Every punch and kick hits with a weighty impact that relies heavily on the sound design. Additionally, the voice actors from the 1987 animated series have reprised their roles. Hearing these iconic voices brings the characters to life and inspires so much joy, even if some of the lines are repeated constantly. The soundtrack leaves no stone unturned. It establishes the rhythm a good brawler should have and gives life to each stage. Not to mention, there's a track featuring members of the Wu-Tang Clan, and it's amazing. I cannot praise the soundtrack and audio design in Shredder's Revenge enough. You really should hear it for yourself. TMNT Shredder's Revenge is incredibly easy to recommend to almost everyone. Despite its story being remarkably average, the combat, design, visuals, and audio check all the boxes. You can complete the game in roughly 2 to 3 hours, but I think the length of the game encourages replayability and leaves you wanting more, which in this case feels right. The variety of characters and their playstyles makes revisiting each stage a joy. The low price tag of $24.99 lowers the barrier to entry without sacrificing quality and is right on the money, pardon the pun. Additionally, Shredder's Revenge is included with Game Pass, which makes it a no-brainer to at least try for Xbox gamers. For those looking for a review score, I'd give TMNT Shredder's Revenge a glowing 4.5 out of 5. It's an amazingly great game that excels in almost every area. I just feel like the arcade mode could have provided the trimmed down rush mode, and that would have allowed the story mode to be the avenue where the story could breathe and the personalities of the turtles could shine just a bit more. Overall, Shredder's Revenge is amazing. Tribute and Dotemu should be immensely proud of themselves. I sincerely hope a sequel is made soon. If you're on the fence, definitely play Shredder's Revenge. You won't be sorry. This game reinvigorated my love for the Turtles, which resulted in me buying this complete collection of the original animated series. It was like $24 at Walmart. Seriously, go see if they have it at your local store. I'm all in again, and I have Shredder's Revenge to thank for that. Anyway, thank you so much for your time and attention, it means the world to me. If you enjoy reviews like this, retrospectives, in-depth review discussions, and spoiler casts, subscribe to the channel. Additionally, I write for lordsofgaming.net. If you're looking for a games media site filled with writers that love games and just want to celebrate them, look no further. Lords of Gaming is the site for you. Again, thank you for your support, lead with love, and stay hydrated.